Recording in progress.
We already got a whole bunch of people here. Wow. Okay. What's going on, Mika? I see you, buddy.
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Professor.
We're here. We got this first quiz over. Wow. Not too many problems. Wow. That was good. We don't need that. Okay, welcome everybody to 3110 Tuesday, Thursday. We have the quizzes are done. I went through there yesterday, I think, and graded everything again. Canvas kind of graded it, but I went through there and added some points. However, if you feel like I've missed your quiz and I didn't add any points in there at all, send me a quick email and I'll take a look at those. I think I finished everything, I think, but I might have missed something. So let me know if you think I didn't give you appropriate points. You can say, hey, can you take a look at my quiz and remind me about that? And I will do that. Okay, let me see one more thing here. Hold on. What do I want to look at? Okay, I'm going to Canvas right here. Okay, where is it? Okay, right here. I'm going to go into the quizzes here. Let me show you a couple of things here. Let's see how we did on it. I feel pretty good about this course. Okay, let's see what we're dealing with here. Wow, this is good. I wasn't going to share the results if they're really terrible, but these are good. So I guess I can bring it up. I don't want to bring it up if it's really bad, but average score 82. Crap. Somebody got 100. The low score is 43. And that's after I added the points. Okay, so it looks like quiz breakdown, phonetics. What do we got? No, only 42% got it right. So phonetics refers to what we looked at. It's called articulatory phonetics. Is a study of how sounds are produced in the vocal tract. So 42% picked that one. Okay, this is a good one. With what topic would phonology be most concerned? 83% picked it. Meaningful distinctive sounds, which is correct. A prescriptive approach to the language, because prescribe is kind of to fix or what's right or wrong about something. You guys looks at the correct uses of the pronunciation, spelling, word formation, sentence structure. The next question, 64% got it. CH and SH are separate phonemes. Indeed, they are. We have, and this is when we go into the twilight zone. So let's see how we did on, who knows how we're going to do here. 89% got this one. You put loud and 11% put something else. 72% got buck, the transcription here. That makes it a little easier there, 72%. The next one, I thought this would be harder, not so hard for this class. Boxing, 67%.
Professor, that one I got so mixed up. I had to like take 5 minutes to look at because I thought it said Baskin. So I was trying to put it in phonetic alphabet, even though
Yeah.
I was so confused on that one.
I had vaccine. I had basking. I think I had one that said that. I had a lot of different ones, but a lot of people got it. We have this one is back, 69% put back, and then light. We had 69% put LAYT, which is correct. And then we have meat, 89% put the M little IT, and 11% put something else. Radio was a harder one. This was a tough one. Still, 58% got it right. So it's R, little e, D, and then I, and then O. So radio. And then no answer. Who did that? I know who did it, but don't do that. So in this case, we have Huskies. 27% actually got it. No, 75% got it right and put Huskies. And then here, hold on just a quick second. My wife, hope it's not an emergency. Give me a quick second. Yeah, I'm in class right now. Everything okay? Okay, all right. Bye-bye. Sorry about that. Somebody's got to pick up our kid today. My wife is substituting and I'm working and he gets out at 3. So, okay, what do we got? Okay, so we got that one. We have Rob, 75% got that one. This was a tougher one. I did give a lot of partial points. Houses, it's transcribed H, the AWS, and the big I, then the Z there. And then this last question here, 89% got it. You're just paying attention or you looked at the YouTube study guide. So there you go, assimilation. So I think this is the number one. I think one of my classes, I had 73 as an average. I think another one was 75, 82. And I had 3 people in 3 sections get 205 out of 205 or 100%. So it is possible.
Professor, I had a question.
Yes.
For number 1, shouldn't
Okay.
it say articulatory phonetics instead of just phonetics in the question?
It would make it probably a better question, but you still can't pick the other answer because that relates to phonology. I guess you could put none of the
Okay.
above, but you don't really have that choice.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at it, you have which one best fits. You have the study how sounds are produced or the study the organization. That refers to phonology, so you only have one other choice. Remember, phonetics, you can break it into auditory, articulatory, and acoustic phonetics. And this is one of the definitions of phonetics.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, what do we got? Let's go to what we want to do today, maybe 2 things. So in the previous class, we talked a little bit about solving problems in phonology and then specifically looking at different languages and determining what's a separate phoneme or not, or is it an allophone of the same phoneme. So today, we're focusing on isolating phonological environments. And I put together a video that organizes this better than what I would do on the fly. So I'm going to go into Canvas and we're going to look at a 10 or 11-minute video that talks about isolating phonological environments. And then after that, I want to go into the workbook and we're going to look at just one example of how we can do that. So I can show you what this is. So when you look in books, phonics books and things, when they talk about sound spelling patterns and things, somebody had to do this, what we're going to do right now. They had to come back, okay, when is a sound pronounced a certain way? So we have to consider assimilation and how some sounds in a word influence other sounds within that word. So that's kind of what we need to look at right now. Okay, let me go back to the modules. And I'll stop the video as needed. This is kind of crazy. So you're watching me by video, and we're going to watch a video within this video. What do you have here? Okay, here we go. So we have isolating phonological environments. Okay, let me share my screen.
Professor,
Yes.
that by itself was a Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Watching a video of yourself
I
within
know.
a video.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it's going to be right now. It's kind of weird. But it's kind of like a slide, almost like a slideshow presentation thing. So remember that some topics in phonology, I mean, it's hard to get people to teach this class. There's only maybe 5 or 6 English professors that'll even teach it. They don't want any, most people don't want anything to do with this thing because it has so many different fields in it, and each field is very, very specific. So there's a lot of what we call kind of specialized knowledge you have to have in order to do this. And a lot of the people that teach this course, one of them's retiring, and one got called into administrative position with the arts and letters and so on and so forth. So I love teaching these courses. I know that you guys, it's not your favorite course. I understand that. My favorite course is actually 3220 English Grammar 1, but I know that you guys probably don't like a course like that, but it kind of breaks things up. Okay, here we go with, no, this is the wrong one. What am I doing? No, here, it's the one below it. And I probably won't even post the recording today because everything you need to know is right here in this video. Isolating phonological environments. So assimilation basically says that it's the process by which some sounds influence other sounds within a word. Can you guys hear this okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right? So sometimes we have to look at what comes before a sound or what comes after that sound, and then what effect do these surrounding sounds have on the sound in question. Now, to put this into its proper context, remember the other day we talked about P, A, C. We talked about in linguistics and phonology, we look at kind of 3 things. And I said phonemes, allophones, and complementary distribution, right? So what we're looking at right now is this third thing. We're looking at complementary distribution. So we're trying to figure out in what environment do certain allophones occur in a language. And in this case, we're looking at Italian. So this is kind of putting into context what we're doing. So here would be an example of what's called isolating phonological environment. So in Italian, we have the N and we have the igma. So we have tinta, tenda, danza, nero. We have fango, bianca, fongo, tengo. So then the N and the igma are allophones of the same phoneme. State in general terms, environment of each. So the N sound occurs, and then the igma occurs. So we're trying to figure out what the environment. So this is kind of how you set it up first, right? So you have to kind of look at the N and look at the sounds that precede or follow that sound. And then you have to go over to the igma and look at what comes before and after that sound to see if you can find any pattern. Environment is for each of these sounds. So how do we do this? So the first thing is take each individual, kind of look at the N, tinta, tenda, danza, nero, right? So I kind of put these together where I can see what comes before and after each sound. So we have the I, we have the little e, we have the A. So we can say, so what I did there, I'm just kind of looking. So you have the I here, you have the E, the A, kind of like that. I just looking at those particular sounds there. And then I'm going to also look at what comes after and see those. And that's why you see me writing down these things here. At this point, that the N occurs after the little I, the little E, and the typewriter A. But what does that mean, if anything, right? Here, now this is in your textbook, right? You can also find it on the internet if you type in IPA chart for vowel or consonant sounds, right? So notice when you look at a chart, to read the chart, right? So notice how it has the place of reticulation, which is one of the characteristics of consonants. We have manner of reticulation over here, and then we have what's called state of the glottis, right? Those are the big three. So if you look at a certain sound, right? If I looked at this, I would say that this is a bilabial, stop, voiceless consonant. Or if I look at this, I would call it a bilabial, nasal, voice consonant. So this kind of helps you to kind of categorize the different sounds. And we're using the chart here to see if we see any patterns like this or the other sounds I've written down there. So let's take a look at the vowel chart to see. So we have the little I, we can see this is a high front tense vowel. We have the little E. This is a, I didn't do this exactly. You didn't see the top. I didn't record this exactly right, but it says front, mid, and then I think low over here. So you have to think about those things on the top. Front, mid tense vowel. And we have the A, which is over here. It's a low back lax vowel. So it doesn't seem to be any general pattern which seems to be influencing the N here, at least what is coming before the N in these cases. Yeah, so in other words here, when I kind of look at, I'm looking at that little I, right? I see it here, but then I have the E over here, and then you have the typewriter A. So they're kind of all over the place. So I can't really state a general pattern based on those three sounds. Okay, let's take a look at another one. So the N also occurs, it occurs before these sounds. We have the T, we have the D, we have the S, and we have the E. So we can say that it looks like the N also occurs before the T, D, S, and the E. So we can see on the vowel chart here the E, right? It's a front, mid, tense vowel. But that's the only vowel in this. Yeah, there's nothing we can in those really examples. Say there. So we can't draw any firm conclusions there. If we look at the vowels, we have the T and the D. Now, these are both alveolar stop consonants, but then we have the S, which is an alveolar fricative consonant. So it would be pretty difficult to try to describe the environment based on that data, right? So I don't think there's very much we can say about the N, right? If we look at what's coming before and after it, we don't really see a pattern, right? The pattern will typically be pretty easy to spot. Okay, so let's take a look at fungo. Yeah, this one is really easy. If you look at it, right, you can see here, I mean, you can easily see you have a G and a K, right? That's definitely a pattern. That's why I kind of circled that part of it. All right, let me keep going. Bianca, fungo, and tango. So it looks like the igma occurs after we have an A, U, and E vowel sounds, right? So if we go back to the vowel chart, do we see anything here? We have the A, right? So we have a back, low, lax vowel. We have the little U, it's a back, high, tense vowel. We have the E, it's more of a front, mid, tense vowels. So again, we can't draw any firm
no hay nada.
conclusions based on these
Nada.
three sounds. It looks like the sounds are kind of all over the vowel chart. There's not much we can say there. However, if we take a look at the consonant chart, and it looks like in all these cases we have the igma is occurring before the G or the
Órale.
K, right? Either of those two sounds. So we can say that the igma occurs before the K and the G.
Bingo.
And if we look over here, it looks like there's a pattern here. Okay, so here's a question. Let me throw this out to you guys. So notice how when you look at the end originally, you can see how it's an alveolar nasal voice consonant, right? But then the igma, it's actually a velar nasal voice consonant. Notice how it's changing. Now, can anybody tell me why? Why does this happen? Why does it make sense phonologically that the N sounds more like an igma when it occurs before a K and a G consonant? Why is that?
Is it where the sound is made?
It is exactly where the sound is made. Yes. So what you have to think about is when you produce the sound, the K and the G, the tongue kind of in the middle, it bunches up and it touches the velar ridge behind the hard palate of the mouth, right? So then what's happening is the N, when you're pronouncing that word, sing, you kind of know that the next word is going to be a K or a G. So the tongue does the same kind of, it bunches up and kind of touches the velar area, the soft palate part of the mouth. It happens because of assimilation. It just makes it much easier. If you say thin, think, or you say think, I think I can do this, right? It's a little bit awkward to say I think I can do it. So assimilation, the K and the G are affecting, if you look at the chart here, the K and the G up here, they're affecting the N. So the N, it kind of moves over and becomes more of a velar consonant when it occurs right before the K or the G. That's exactly what's happening here. Okay, let's keep going. Let me get this. Right, these are both velar stop consonants. They are voiceless and voiced velar stop consonants. So that looks like a pattern, and you can see where the igma is kind of in the same category here. So if we go back to answering the question, right, we go back to the N, and it looks like the N, we couldn't really do anything with that. I'm just going to say that it occurs everywhere else. That's it. So there isn't really a phonological pattern that we can predict based on the environment. Yeah, so if you can't find a pattern, or you feel like you have to write 7 or 8 different locations or rules to explain it, just put everywhere else. We couldn't find a good phonological rule with the N. But even if you said, well, the igma occurs before the K and the G, and then the alveolar nasal consonant occurs in all other situations, that's still a rule. Everywhere else is still a good rule, because it means it will be the N sound in all situations except for when it occurs before a K and a G. And the same thing happens in English too, by the way. Environments that we looked at. However, so the igma occurs before velar consonants. That's definitely a pattern that we found based on our analysis of the data here. Let's isolate the environment of the S and the SH sound in Korean. Now, this one's important for me because I teach ESL students, and sometimes my international students, they'll have trouble with certain sounds. And they can pronounce it in certain cases, but in other cases, they'll get caught up and they'll pronounce it a different way. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Before I knew this phonological rule in Korean, I did not know why my students were having trouble with words like this. They would see a word like that, and they would see a word like this. And my Korean students, I'm teaching 2 right now even, they would pronounce each word as she. I'm like, why are they getting mixed up on the S and the SH? I couldn't figure that out. But then as you realize when you look at this example here, right? So you have I think the S sound or the S phoneme in Korean, it can be realized as an S and then as an S hat check. So the S and the S hat check sounds are actually allophones in Korean. They're not separate phonemes. But in English, we know they are separate phonemes. So, and that's where the confusion lies. And that's why they have trouble with this. Same thing with the R. I think in Japanese and Korean, the R can be realized as the R and the L. But both of these sounds in Korean and Japanese are not separate phonemes. They're actually allophones. So with my Korean and Japanese students, they're going to have trouble with these 2 words, right and light. They kind of think you're saying the same thing. And what they'll do is they'll say right, and they won't pronounce this sound as clearly as they need to. So, and that helps explain when you work with people of other languages, it helps you to understand more what their problem areas might be when they're learning English, if you're a little bit familiar with the sound system of their own language. You guys can probably imagine, for me, it was a little bit confusing in the beginning to get the idea that there were 2 different phonemes for the R. That kind of threw me off a little bit, carro and carro, or perro and perro. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What is that now? That threw me off because we don't have that in English. So there's different things happen in one language. And that's kind of what phonology will do. It'll compare different language systems and kind of see how they work, how they're the same, how they're different, and so on. Right? So it says the S and the SH are allophones of the same phoneme. State in general terms the environment of each. So again, this is an example of one more example of isolating phonological environments. And when we say state in general terms environment, this is looking at what's called the complementary distribution. One sound will occur in this environment, the other occurs at a different environment, and the 2 sounds don't overlap. And they're not meaningfully distinctive, at least in Korean. I want to pause the video, try to solve the problem on your own, and then you can see how I worked it out in this video. To help us isolate the environments here, let's do what we did before. So let's take a look at all the sounds that have the S in it. You see the word sal, sinmun, queso, kasu, right? So we're going to put these all right here and see what we can see. So we're highlighting in red what occurs before and after the sound in question. So far the S occurs after an L, an A, and a little E vowel, right? We can say that. But what does that really mean? We have the A here. This is a back, low, lax vowel. But the E is more of a front, mid, it's tense all vowel. over the There's chart. No relationship there. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to go over to the consonant chart to get a look at the L here. The lateral consonant there, the alveolo-lateral consonant.
No hay nada
right?
aquí, no hay nada.
So in this case, I'm just going to say that the S occurs after the L, A, and the E vowels, but really that doesn't look like it's a specific phonological pattern that we can make any generalizations about. Now let's take a look at the S occurs before what sounds, right? So we see the U here, we see the A, we see the U here, and we have that epsilon E. So we can say, and also the L there. Okay, so we can say here is the S seems to occur before the L, U, and the E sounds. Again, it doesn't seem to be a generalized pattern. We can see the L in the consonant chart here. we go over to the vowel chart and we look at the little u, which is a back, high, tense vowel. We look at the epsilon E, that kind of moves over to more of a front, mid, lax vowel. So there's not really much of a relationship that we can say there. All right, so in this one, there's not really any specific environments for the S. At least that's what it looks like right here. So I'm just going to say for the answer here occurs everywhere else. It just means that I couldn't find any predictable pattern at all based on the words I looked at. This sound seems to be in many, many locations. There's nothing we can say there. Now let's take a look at the SH sound. I think that there's something here, right? So we have the SH, right? So let's look at what it occurs after. There's only one example where there's a sound before the SH. So it looks like it occurs after the O, but that's it. That's all we can say.
Yeah, I can't say much on
so
that.
I put the SH that occurs after an O sound. But there seems to be something more specific here. So it occurs before this E. In all these cases, 1, 2, 3, 4, we got 4 instances where that SH sound occurs before the E. The E is a high front tense vowel. That seems to be a specific pattern, right? So the SH sound seems to occur before that little I vowel, at least in Korean, right? So then if we go back up here, we can say something pretty specific now. The SH occurs before the little I vowel. Or if we want to be really specific, we can say it occurs before the high front tense vowel. So that seems to be a specific phonological environment there based on our analysis of the consonant and the vowel sound charts.
Okay, here's a question. Let me put this. Now that you know this, what I just said here, let me see if you can think about this. How might a Korean student pronounce that word?
Sheet.
Yes, right? They might say that because they're used to the little I, right? That they know in their own language when the little I, when the S occurs before the little I, is typically pronounced as an SH sound. So the tendency is to take this and substitute it for that when it comes before the little I. So that helps for me explain why my Korean students sometimes have a little bit of trouble with the S and the SH sounds, and also the R and the L sounds. They have trouble with both of those pairs.
Could it be where how their mouths move and making words?
And that's kind of what
I don't think that's it. It's what are they used to doing in their language, right? They have the S and the SH sounds. They have both of those. Now, if it's a sound that they don't have at all in their language, I would say yes to your observation. You know what I mean? So, but they actually have the SH sound. They have
call isolating.
They have
phonological environment.
They have both sounds, but the sounds are actually allophones, not separate phonemes. That's the confusion. That's why they have difficulty with that. Okay, so there you go. So that would be, I wanted to show you that, and then we're going to go into the workbook right now and look at one of the problems in there, and we'll work on that for a minute. And I'm not going to test you really heavily on this area, by the way. I don't think. I think the one thing I'm going to ask you has to do with either the ED or the S endings in English. Okay, let me go to the workbook. Okay, right here. Here we go. Let's get that out of here, right? You guys will be happy. We're kind of almost putting IPA in the rearview mirror, but we do have about I'm going to say about 8 different questions on the test that will deal with IPA. It won't be a huge percentage of points, not like it was on the quiz, but you will be tested one more time on IPA, and then you move on with those. Where is it, right? Here it is, this one. This is the one right here. Okay. Okay, so let's figure this out. See if you guys can figure this out. I'm going to put you guys in 3 groups. We'll have 3 breakout rooms here. So one breakout room number 1, I want you guys to try to figure out when the ED is pronounced as a T. And you may have to use, if you have your textbook, or if you want to go to Google, type in the keywords, consonant, IPA consonant chart. Let me write down what I'm doing here before I forget. Let's see. So let's see if you guys can figure it out, and we'll come back together as a class. Okay. So it says here, it says state in general terms the environment of each. So when is the ED a T? When is the ED a D? And then when do we create a new syllable for the ED ending? And this, by bringing this up right now, it kind of helps me make a kind of a connection to morphology, which is what we'll get into over the next 2 or 3 class sessions. But morphology looks at the study of the constructions of words out of smaller units called morphemes, which still doesn't really help you. A morpheme is the smallest linguistic unit in the sound system of a language that has either meaning or grammatical function. So in this case, we can say that the ED doesn't really have it doesn't have meaning, but it does have grammatical function. We call this past tense. It's a past tense inflectional morpheme. It's exactly what it is. Or you could argue it's the past participle inflectional morpheme. We'll talk about that more on another day. But the question is, when is the ED pronounced as a T? When is it pronounced as a D? And then when do we create that new syllable? That's what I want you guys to try to figure out with your groups. So each group, just only focus on the one sound. And if for group 1, you're going to look at coughed. You're going to look at every time you see a T, past, dressed, touched, faked, moped, right? And you have to look at what is the sound before the T? What is that? And how are those sounds similar on the consonant chart or something like that? Okay, you guys see what we're trying to do here? So there'll be maybe 8 to 10 people in each group, and each group only focuses on that one environment. After 10 minutes, or not, we can do it in 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we're going to come back and see if we can figure out what the environments are for these 3 sounds. And they're all, of course, what we call allomorphs, or non-distinctive variations of the inflectional past tense ending. And the workbook, I don't know what page this is. What is this? Page 18. Looks like. Okay, here we go. So breakout room 1, you're focusing on the T sound. Breakout room number 2 is focusing on the D. And breakout room number 3 is focusing on the id when we create the additional syllable for the ED ending. Okay, here we go. Let me get the room. So let's do 3. Assign automatically. Oh yeah, these are going to be big. Wow, look at that. We got a lot of people here. How many people we got in here? Wow, 34 people. Okay, here we go. I'm going to give you a 5-minute limit and pick somebody to be a spokesperson for your group. And then when we come back, we'll talk about it. Okay, here we go. So 5 minutes. Good luck.